Apple Watch Series 9 versus Whoop 4.0. Which one is right for you? Now, if you're comparing these two devices, you probably care the most about fitness tracking, sleep tracking, and care less about these smart features from the Apple Watch, because obviously Whoop doesn't have that. So let's start with the form factor, because the form factor it seems similar, but it's actually different enough that it might sway your decision. So the Whoop is a lot thinner, and you actually have a bunch of different ways you can wear it. I started off wearing it on the wrist because that's what it comes with, a wrist strap, which I guess you can also wear on the ankle. But I then bought a bicep strap, and I've been wearing it on my bicep every day since. Whereas with the Apple Watch, it's designed to be worn on your wrist as a watch, obviously. Now, the reason I say the form factor might be a deciding factor is that if you're like me and you do like analog watches, you like your chronographs, or maybe you like your dive watches, then you can double wrist, and I have double wristed before. It's just not that comfortable, and it feels kind of weird. And I've done it for weeks and weeks until I was like, you know what, it doesn't feel right. So what I do now is I actually wear both on my biceps, which you can do with the Apple Watch. And I actually have this bicep strap, which I wear just about every day. I've tried a few from Amazon. This one's my favorite, and it's of course linked below. So keep that in mind, because with the Whoop, you can wear it a little bit more seamlessly other parts of your body. They also have a whole line of clothes where you can insert it into these little pockets on the Whoop designed clothing, and it'll still track your heart rate. So a few other things to keep in mind. The thickness of the Apple Watch is greater, of course. If you go with the Ultra, it's a much thicker watch and a much larger watch than the regular Series 9. This is the regular Series 9 on my wrist right now, but even still, substantially thicker. So if you are wearing it on your bicep or some other place, then it is gonna get in the way, and the functionality will also be limited. If you're wearing a long sleeve shirt and your Apple Watch is down there, then you can't really interact with it without it being a very awkward experience. Next up, let's talk battery and charging. So I think a lot of people get hung up on battery life in terms of how many days a device will last, which I don't think is that important, because what you want to do, or at least what I think makes the most sense, is charging the device every day at the same time to make it part of your daily routine. Because if you have to charge it once every 4 days, once every 5 days, you're probably gonna forget. Whereas if you just do it every single day, a lot easier. So Apple Watch Series 9, we have the regular standard Apple charging puck that I don't think they've changed since the first Apple Watch, and it just magnetically attaches. Now, if you don't charge it, it'll last, in my experience, about a day and a half. Also depends on how much activity you're doing. You can possibly extend it up to 2 days, but if you are working out, that is gonna drain the battery more. But also keep in mind that it's not as secure. So there have been times where I've placed it just ever so slightly off, and I wake up in the morning and there's no charge in it, because I thought it was charging, but it was just a little bit misaligned. Now with Whoop, they have this interesting system. They have this charging puck. So the charging puck has its own USB-C, and this holds a charge. And then you can actually slide it on top of your Whoop and wear the Whoop while you're charging this, which a lot of people get really excited about. I understand it. It's tracking you while you're wearing it. You don't have any dead zones or any moment in the day when the Whoop isn't tracking you. But the issue is, when I shower, I don't want this on me. So when I shower, I actually take this off, attach to the charging puck, and then charge both of them together at the same time. So this is plugged in while it's charging the Whoop rather than on my body. But if I forget or whatever else happens, then you can always wear it and attach it like this. Some people suggest wearing this while you sleep. It's just a little bit too bulky for me. I wouldn't want to do that. Now, full transparency, I did have some issues with the Whoop charger. So I was traveling and it just died. It wasn't holding any charge, it wasn't charging this. I connected it to my computer, did some troubleshooting, tried to update the firmware on this. It does not light up. Still does not light up. But other items here are charging just fine. Long story short, had a brief email exchange with Whoop and they sent me a new one, but that is a trade-off, right? Because this is a more complex device than just a simple puck charger like this. So there is the chance that this can go wrong. And the annoying thing is that I was traveling to India for a little over 2 weeks and this failed, I think, towards the beginning. So then my Whoop died halfway through the trip and I just couldn't use it for a week or so. All right, now to the actual user interface. The first thing to highlight is that with the Apple Watch, of course, you can use it directly on your wrist, or you can interact using the various apps. With the Whoop, it's only through the app. Keep that in mind. So with Apple Watch, you have a few different apps, which is interesting. Let's start with fitness. Fitness is gonna show you essentially all your activity, the various workouts you've done, etc. This is its own app, and it has Fitness Plus, which has various classes. I have never tried this. They gave me the free subscription that I think they gave all Apple members at the beginning of the year, but it's just not the way that I like to exercise, but maybe you do. And then of course there's the social aspect, the sharing, So if you do get energized and you do find that accountability and accountability buddies really help propel you and you want to interact with friends and family, then they have that baked in. The interface here on the fitness app feels a little bit more basic. So you have these rings that you try to close every day, and you can select, any given day. You can see what your activities were. You can even go on a calendar view and see what days you've closed your rings in the past. It's a little bit simple. Now, the health app I feel is both simple and advanced user at the same time, whereas the Whoop app I think does a better job of finding the balance point, which we're gonna get to right after this. On the health app, this is where it's culminating all the various data points from your Apple Watch and other devices that connect to Apple Health, and it's portraying them here. So here on my summary tab, these are my favorites. So I wear a CGM, which you can see right up here, that's my blood glucose. The Apple Watch that I bought from Costco after the ban, so if you do, I'm not sure if this is still the case, but I think if you're buying the watch not from Apple directly, but from certain authorized resellers, such as Costco, you still do get the oxygen saturation, which was banned due to the patent infringement. Now, the reason I say this is both more basic and more advanced user at the same time is that it has all these discrete data points separated out, and you can dive in, like let's say I wanna go to my heart rate variability. And now I can read a little bit about it here and see trends. And if you have a background with fitness, if you know the significance of your HRV or your cardio recovery or your VO2 max, it allows you to explore that, but you have to really dive through and navigate to find what you're looking for. Now let's go to Whoop. And I think Whoop does a better job of finding that balance point to maintain the usability while also giving you all the data that you want. So here on the summary page, we have our recovery and our strain. Did a bike ride today that was moderately intense, so my strain is 15.3. I think it can go up to 24, it's like the most intense. And then my recovery is 69, nice.
It's nice.
And then scrolling down, I can see what are those activities that contributed to those scores above. So I can go and see my actual cycling. I can see the intervals I did, the heart rate following. And you're gonna see a little dip right here. That's an error, a glitch with Whoop. And we're gonna get to the accuracy of each of these devices shortly. And my zones and some key statistics at the bottom. Similarly, I can look at sleep and same thing here. Now, a lot of people get caught up on the various sleep stages of light sleep versus deep sleep versus REM, and none of these devices, none of these consumer grade devices that you wear in this way, I mean, they do have some EEGs, which we're gonna be covering soon on this channel, but none of these kinds of devices are gonna track it as closely where you should be fretting between how much deep sleep versus light sleep you're getting, in my opinion. So if we move back to Apple Health, we can also go here to sleep. And similarly, I can see my various stages. I can see more sleep data here. A little bit easier to use and easier to interact with on Whoop. But again, I don't think the various sleep stages are all that important. What I think you should care more about would be things like your sleep duration, your consistency, meaning when do you fall asleep, when do you wake up, your respiratory rate, are you having any disturbances at night, your heart rate at night, your HRV. Those things are more meaningful in my opinion versus obsessing over how much time you're in deep versus REM sleep. Both Apple Watch and Whoop can wake you up in the morning using haptics. I'm looking here at the Whoop app. You can either choose an exact time like a traditional alarm, or you can have a sleep goal and you can set it at different percentages and then have a latest wake up time. So what it's gonna do is it's going to wake you up during the lighter sleep stages based on its algorithm because it's tracking you real time. And with the Apple Watch, you just go to your alarm app and then there's an alarm. They don't have the fancy waking you up at the lightest stage of sleep. It's just a time. I also like how here on the homepage, I can customize my key statistics. I can edit and choose exactly what I want. So what I choose is gonna be different than what you choose, but I can just quickly see all my stats right here. And the stress monitor. Now, Whoop does not track your steps, unlike Apple Watch. That is one thing that I wish it did do, but their philosophy is that step counting is not as useful for what they're trying to do to calculate your strain, how much cardiovascular or cardiorespiratory strain you're undergoing during the day, which is why something like cycling is gonna have a higher strain versus something like strength training. So they have their own algorithms and their own theory, but that is one of the reasons why the Apple Watch wouldn't be replaced by the Whoop, because I do care about my step count day to day. The interface here is a little bit cleaner, more intuitive. We're going down here now to strain and recovery. I can see how I've trended over the last week. Going on to sleep, my sleep performance, it's actually quantifying that, something that Apple Health does not do, which is just it's an easier way for someone to just get a quick glance of their sleep performance. And a lot of different companies have their own algorithms. Whoop does this, Oura Ring has their own, etc. How much I slept, how much sleep I needed, my sleep debt. And if I'm falling behind, I'll even get an alert saying, hey, sleep earlier tonight at this precise time. It'll give me a suggested time to make sure you catch up to your sleep debt, right? So scrolling down again, I get more useful statistics, better portrayed data here, and I can see the trends over the last week, and I can tap into any of these to get additional detail, something that is missing in Apple Health. I will say though, there are other apps that help visualize the data from Apple Health, but the ones I found, they are paid apps. So now you're paying a subscription fee just to get a more usable interface with your Apple Health, or they're a one-time fee. And one of those that I do like is actually Health Hive here, which compares your data against other people in your country, in your age range, etc. And the other one being Athletic with a Y. And this gives you an interface that looks a little bit closer to Whoop actually. And this is $4 per month. Now, similar to the fitness app that brings in that social community aspect, there is a community tab here, and you can interact with friends, you can join teams. So I'm part of the Shervin Shares team, he's my buddy. And again, if you want that social accountability, that is offered on both apps. One of my favorite features about Whoop is actually on this plan tab under Insights. So every morning when you wake up and sync your Whoop to your phone, it's gonna ask you for a journal entry. And you can customize what it asks you. For me, it's things like, did I sleep in my own bed? Was I eating clean? Did I have dairy? Did I do any zone 2 training? Things like that. You can customize your own. And you do that over a long enough period of time, and it'll correlate those behaviors with your actual sleep performance, which I think is absolutely brilliant. I love this feature so much. So far, I have some data points that are telling me what actually improves my sleep. The one that I thought was surprising, and I don't think is true, is alcohol +1. I have alcohol very infrequently, and out of the 7 times I've had it, I guess I get slightly better sleep, probably because I'm like on vacation or whatever. But I'm also limiting myself to like 1 max of 2 drinks. And then interestingly, hydration, I think because I just end up using the bathroom more at night, being overly hydrated is not good for my sleep, and wearing a nose strip at night, which I thought would help, doesn't seem to be helping. The reason I love this is that it's giving me actionable feedback now that I can use to change my behaviors, because ultimately that's why we use these various devices, right? We're trying to change our behaviors and be healthier and get better sleep, get better performance, and overall be happier, healthier, etc. And then for those factors where it does not have statistical significance, whether or not it is helping or hurting my sleep, it just shows them here as, hey, these are still pending, just keep logging, and eventually it'll move up to the top section. And here's that sleep planner I told you about earlier. So I should be sleeping right around 10 p.m. tonight, ideally. Okay, now some issues with the actual hardware and accuracy. From my experience, the Apple Watch is noticeably more accurate when it comes to heart rate tracking. I've done a few walks and I was wearing the Whoop on my wrist just like this, actually both of them just like this, and the Apple Watch seemed quite accurate. Whereas the Whoop, I was regularly logging heart rates that were substantially higher than the Apple Watch. And when I'm doing a casual walk after dinner, I'm not exerting myself super hard, so there's no way I'm hitting 130, 140 beats per minute or whatever the app was suggesting I did. So what I found is that by actually swapping the Whoop from the wrist, and I was wearing it tight just like this, because I know that that's probably, that was the first thing I thought, which is, hey, if you're not wearing it close and tight against the wrist, then the heart rate tracking is not gonna be as accurate, whereas the Apple Watch does give you a little bit more leniency. Their algorithm seems to be able to handle it not being super tight against your wrist. But when I change this to the bicep strap, which I'm gonna do right now, the accuracy actually greatly improved. So it also depends on the activity you're doing, because I found that when it comes to things like running or even walking, which isn't that high of impact, that the Whoop wasn't being as accurate. But when I was cycling stationary on my indoor bike, no issues. And even when I'm cycling outdoors, the Whoop tends to be a little bit more accurate, whereas the Apple Watch consistently across just about every activity is very accurate. And the way I'm verifying this is actually with a chest heart rate strap, which I use whenever I cycle. So this is actually how I prefer to wear my Whoop day to day. One thing I really like about Whoop is that it's tracking you 24/7 continuously. So you can go back and then add a workout after the fact. And I'm the kind of person that very frequently will forget to start the activity. So if I'm going out on a walk, the Apple Watch will remind me, hey, are you on an outdoor walk? I'll click yes, sometimes it doesn't, and then I just lose that part of the workout. Whereas with Whoop, you can do that after the fact, which is really nice. You start your workouts using the Apple Watch on your actual watch, which is a little bit more convenient. You don't have to pull your phone out. Whereas with Whoop, you do unfortunately have to take your phone out to start the activity, press plus, and you're gonna start your activity. Both are gonna sync to other apps like Strava, and since I use both my Apple Watch and my Whoop, I actually don't even start activities with my Whoop because it'll sync with Apple Health and then find the time, the start and end time, but then use its own heart rate data to calculate its own strain score, which is really nice. I like the way that it also uploads to Strava. So I use a bike computer with a chest heart rate strap. Those upload to my Strava directly. And because I don't want duplicates, I don't have my Whoop upload. but my afternoon weight training, as an example. I like that it has this little photo, shows you my recovery, my strain, estimated calories, and Apple doesn't do something similar. In terms of location tracking, with the Whoop, there's no built-in GPS. So if you want to route your activity, your cycling, your hiking, your running, etc., then you need to have your phone with you, and it will piggyback from the phone's GPS. With the Apple Watch, you don't actually need your phone, because even the non-cellular version, this is not a cellular, this is the GPS only, it has a GPS module. If you get the Ultra, it's gonna have dual band, a little bit more accurate in certain scenarios, but even the regular Series 9 does have GPS. Now, in terms of pricing, Whoop is a subscription-based model. So you pay every month, or you can even do the annual upfront, and it comes out to around $240 per year. And if you use my link down in the description, they'll actually give you 1 month free, and it does also help support the channel. As for the Apple Watch, you just buy it up front, around $400, a little bit more if you're going for the 45mm. This is the 45mm on my 6 3/4 inch wrist, smaller wrist, but it still actually works pretty well. The 41mm is about 20 bucks cheaper. Now, I got this from Costco. I recommend you check out Costco too, because I got mine for like $330 on sale. They do tend to have pretty good deals there. Now, you'll have to calculate for yourself the pricing, because based on how frequently you upgrade watches, there's also a resale value, right? So with the Whoop, you're not gonna sell this to someone else. It's based on a subscription. So once you're done with the device, it's not really useful. It's not that straightforward of a calculation though, because the Whoop, it's subscription, right? So when you're not using it anymore, it becomes a paperweight. There's no resale value to the actual device. And with the Apple Watch, depending on how frequently you upgrade, you can get some resale. So if you sell the Series 9 12 months after it's released versus 24, 36, etc., each year is gonna have lower and lower resale value, but you're still recouping some of that cost. All right, which one is best for you? It's of course gonna depend on your use case. Now, the Whoop, I think if you're really focused on sleep and fitness, those are the two main priorities, right? And it does all the necessary things in both, I would say. So as an example, like it has SpO2, it has your HRV, resting heart rate, your various sleep stages, your sleep tracking on the sleep side. And on fitness, it primarily focuses on your heart rate and the strain score, which is their arbitrary algorithmic system to quantify how intense your activity has been that day. Whereas with Apple Watch, you are getting essentially all the same data points, but a few additional ones, right? You're getting things like steps, you're getting GPS tracking, you're getting height of, steps climbed, you're getting a few more details, even things like your gait and more obscure things that people don't really focus on as much. I'm just a weird nerd, so I like that stuff. I actually value that, and I think most people couldn't care less. Now, a step further than that, if you want actionable coaching and advice, I think the Whoop is actually better, because the way the app is designed, it will tell you how well you slept, how hard you should push yourself that day. It has some coaching features. It has a bit more utility in terms of actually changing your behaviors. I love the journal feature with the insights. That's something that will very clearly drive behavior change. Whereas with the Apple Watch, you're not quite getting the same level of insights. They do have a few things here and there, not nearly as well integrated or as insightful. And part of that's actually a philosophical difference, because from what I've heard the Apple engineers say is that they don't want to tell you what to do. They want to just give you the data and then allow you to decide what you want to do with that data. And then of course, you also have to consider the form factor. So if you like the way the Apple Watch looks, if you like the added functionality of it being a smartwatch more so than just a fitness tracker, that's obviously going to sway your decision. I think most people, they're not going to be weirdos like me rocking both every day, but I actually don't like the way the Apple Watch looks. So if I did not value the data that I was getting from the Apple Watch and the way that it integrates into Apple Health, and the fact that I've had one for several years and I'd like to see how my HRV trends or my resting heart rate or my estimated VO2 max, things like that, then I probably wouldn't have an Apple Watch, because I prefer analog watches. Let me know which one you chose with a comment down below.